Welcome to the World Art Now podcast, exploring the world through the material culture of its people, in association with Michael Backman Limited.
I'm Michael Backman, and I'm here in London with Annemarie Jordan, who is based in Switzerland, and Hugo Miguel Crespo, who is based in Portugal. The three of us have written books in our respective fields of material culture, and the other thing that we have in common is that we are independent researchers and writers, meaning that we operate outside a museum or university structure. So I thought it would be quite interesting for the three of us to get together and to discuss what does it mean to operate in such a way? What does it mean to write and to research without a structure, a university or a museum structure to back us up? So the three of us, we're all independent scholars in a sense, because each of us have written books or contributed to books. But and of course I've just done my book on Malay, silver and gold, but as we know, I have a gallery and so on. But Annemarie, what's your most recent book?
I'm still finishing up my Pearl book, Peregrina, the famous Pearl, one's owned by Liz Taylor, because I had a stop and go process with this book. And as you know, when you get into certain issues in a book, you sometimes have to go down different rabbit holes. To not leave any stones unturned. Indeed.
And Hugo, what are you working on at the moment?
Well, at the moment, I'm working on a small book on Christian art made in China, mostly for the Portuguese, but from the 16th century to the 20th century.
And this is the thing, because each of us, we're independent. We're not allied to universities particularly or to a museum. And so each of us is independent. And that's kind of interesting. Do you see, we don't have the safety net, I suppose, of a regular income coming in, and, from the taxpayers, for example. And do you regret that? Or are you happy to be independent? Would you prefer to be involved with a university or a museum, do you think?
No, I'm very happy, actually. I can do my own research at my own pace. Of course, it's difficult because I have to buy my books.
Yes.
It's challenging to work in Lisbon, in Portugal. We don't have resources like you do here in the UK, or Annemarie does in Switzerland. But I prefer to be an independent scholar, of course.
Yes. And Annemarie, how do you feel?
I think now, in hindsight, after being in the field for over 30 years, in the beginning when I was younger, I thought I had to be attached to as an academic to a university or to a museum. But today I'm very, very grateful for my freedom, because I can do whatever I want and study whatever I want, research what I want.
I agree. I feel exactly the same way.
Yes.
And I love, for me, the best part of my job is the research. I just love it. I love it more than anything. And it is that sort of freedom of deciding what you're going to look at and how. And the other thing is that, yes, if you're attached to a museum or a university, you don't have to waste time going to meetings where you've got to pretend that you've got to say something just to be seen to be having said something, and play all those corporate games and so on. You don't have to waste time sitting around discussing where the next disabled toilet access is going to be, or what item will be on the fridge magnet for the gift shop. We can actually get on with proper stuff. But do you feel that we suffer, perhaps, in terms of credibility by not being attached to a museum or some sort of academic institution?
For me, I don't think so, because the quality of our work, it's there, it's in printed form. So I'm very well known by my peers.
Yes, so, you are. Yes.
I don't need a museum or an institution to give credibility to my work. My work stands on its own. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you feel?
I'm sure Annemarie is the same.
Yes. No, I do. They think that I can stand on my own. And
yes.
I think what links the three of us is our passion for artworks, for discovering new perspectives on what we're studying, whether the topic includes a corpus of artworks or one individual piece of art. And credibility, excuse me for interrupting you, I think credibility, really, you gain the credibility by the more you publish and the more you get good things out. My credo has always been top quality work, high quality research at that level of where you are at that point. And of course you can it is possible that you have made mistakes and correct yourself in the future, but that's how I work, to bring out the best top quality research I can at that given point of the research. Research is like a river. It's in continuous movement. And then new factors come in and then you think, oh, I should have said it that way, or I should have looked at it that way. But that's what research is about.
Oh, that's true. I was talking with Annabelle Gallop from the British Library, in fact, and I said, oh my God, like your book comes out and you think on page 72 you spot an error or a typo or whatever, and she said, oh, don't worry about that. She said we all have that problem, and so that is that thing where you wish retrospectively you go back and change things and so on. But I think you just got to get over that, because everyone's in that situation, and and some academics have said to me, oh God, they're humiliated by some of the stuff they've written in the past. But I think the nice thing about being independent also is that we're sort of in a crossover situation whereby in some respects we're more accessible to the public in the work that we do, whereas I do get a sense with, say, academics that they're often sort of talking to each other. If anyone's in an echo chamber, often it's them. Their entire world often can be, other academics, and they pitch everything they do to other academics without any sense of trying to communicate with the people who are actually paying their salaries, which is the wider public. And I have noticed the phenomenon of academics who will publish a book but then don't want to promote it. They kind of like, they publish it, get it out there, and then kind of want to run away. And they go, oh no, I'm not doing social media. And I'm thinking, yeah, but why don't you communicate with the people who are actually paying for this to be done? But that's kind of not their interest.
I think academia has changed since I was a graduate student in graduate school at George Washington University and Brown University. Professors were more elite.
Right.
There was I hope that you agree with me, Hugo, that there was scholarship was done differently. Today, I think professors are under enormous pressures to teach, to have so many students under them, X number of courses per semester, plus they have to produce publications to satisfy and fulfill quotas of the university. And if they don't publish either articles or in academic journals or books or monographs, they get sort of demoted, I think. And I think the rush to publish is a problem nowadays because certain things are not properly researched. What counts is just having this title on your curriculum. And this puts enormous pressure on the way scholarship used to be done when I was in grad school.
Do you think that's different in the United States compared with Europe?
It's a hard question because I've lived so long in Europe now.
Yes.
But I've heard that things have really changed in the United States.
Yes.
And in fact, in the United States, I think more than in Europe, and you have to correct me, Hugo, perhaps you're more up to date, universities are discouraging students to study art history on a graduate level, that it's just not worthwhile. Humanistic studies like that just don't get you the jobs you need, and that they're reducing art history departments in terms of professors and all of that. I stand to be corrected, but it's hard, I think.
In Portugal, I think it's the same thing. It's decreasing. There are a lot fewer people working on our subjects, which in a way it's good because we can better control or do a proper research, I think.
What about funding? Like, I mean, for me it's obvious because I have a gallery, a commercial gallery, and that gives me an income to allow me to do my own research and write books and so on. Do you have a trouble like securing funding for what you do, or do you often find that you've got to scratch around and is it often a fight to secure the funds you need to do what you need to do and what you want to do?
Sure, it's personal funds. So we are always counting on on our own money. So it's very difficult to be able to travel and to look at objects or to buy books that are not available in your own country. It's very challenging. Either you have funds, either you have a family that supports you, or friends, but it's mostly your own money that you see. Everything you make, you invest immediately. So it's we live to research, to do research.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And it's quite difficult. I suppose that's the thing. You get more freedom but less money. And
for sure, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of my career, I did so many things for free.
Oh God, yes. Tell me about it.
I was very lucky that I had a husband, but I worked for my husband doing his bookkeeping and accounting so that I had a monthly salary for my Social Security. But it's a hand-to-mouth situation, and to build up your knowledge, it's hard.
I was going to say, you must have had this experience where someone will say, "Oh, come and speak at our conference," and then they'll say, "Oh, there's no funds for a speaker's fee or whatever, but it'll be great exposure for your book, and you can sell books." Mm-hmm. And then you're still thinking, "Yeah, great. So I've got to prepare a speech, fly somewhere, and we might sell 6 copies of the book." Which is, probably $3 royalty per book. So I'm actually going to turn up and speak for $18. It's that sort of people just have no concept of how expensive all of this is and how little return you actually get, particularly when it comes to sort of book royalties and things like that. So it is very difficult.
I curated an exhibition at Museum Riedberg in Zurich in 2009. The show opened in 2010. And I worked for years with I wrote the entire catalog. And in the end, after 3 years, I calculated how much I earned, and I was making 50 Swiss cents an hour.
Right.
And you put in one day is 7 hours of writing and researching. That's normal for all 3 of us.
Oh, totally. Yes. Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
So.
My big beef. I mean, I've got a commercial gallery, so in some respects, I'm better off in this regard. But what really irritates me is I put a lot of research into an object and we sell it to a museum, so it's all very good, but my research is never credited thereafter because they think, oh no, that all stops because they paid money for it. So they're quite able to plagiarize and rip off my research, claim it for their own, and I see often, the things I've said almost block copied in a museum catalogue, no attribution. But the curators get all of the attribution and all of the credit, and I find that really irritates me.
But that professional plagiarism, Michael, is illegal. They cannot do that, and the excuses that they have given you in the past are wrong.
We should fight against it.
We should fight.
Yeah, we should because we're not. I don't think any of us are given enough credit.
We have.
Yes.
I defend my work fiercely because. The knowledge has not come lightly or easily. You have to build up the knowledge.
Yes.
As Hugo said, you have to buy your own books, you have to do your own travels to see objects, etc., etc. Whatever the expenses are, they are all there. And you have to cover them.
Tell me, what's your way of writing and research? Like, how do you treat it like a 9-to-5 thing? Do you sit down at a desk and? I mean, when I wrote I've written about 10 books, and my very first book I wrote in a walk-in wardrobe because I didn't want to have any natural light. I didn't want to have any view. I wanted no distraction, and once I was writing a book on a Malaysian politician. I remember flying with him to Langkawi or somewhere like that, and he said to me on one day, he said, "Look, I'm going off somewhere, you stay here, you can sit under a palm tree and write." And I remember saying, I was really a bit pissed off really, and I said, "Well, I'm not a poet, what I do is really hard graft in terms of research, and I'm not going to sit under a palm tree and do all this work." So it was the same when I was sitting in the in the walk-in wardrobe. I was there to work, research. So do you have like the one thing you can't do is have a desk with a marvelous view. That I think is dangerous. You end up gazing away. So describe to me your work environments. Do you and do you eat? Do you eat when you're I used to use eating and drinking like, you know, a nice cup of tea and then something sweet to go with it as a way to start to kick off my relaxed way of writing and the way to concentrate. Do you do that?
Well, for my first book that I did for the exhibition I curated in 2014 at Museu do Oriente on the jewels for the India run, I did a very wacky thing. I would start working at 10 in the evening.
Oh.
And work until 8 in the morning, then go to sleep. Then I slept like 8 hours, and then in the afternoon I would do research, and then again. So I did that for like 3 months or 2 months,
right.
And I wrote the whole thing like that. Of course, I had all the meals and everything.
Yes.
But it was quite intense. I was just focused on
yes.
doing that.
Yeah, it is that thing about how to make yourself focus, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Do you ever have problems, Annemarie, focusing?
No, but what I do is sometimes I get the best ideas at night when I'm sleeping. And so what I do is I get up early, sometimes at 5 a.m., have my first cup of coffee, and my home office is actually my bed.
Oh, right.
I have these big fat pillows, and I just sit in bed and write down all the ideas before I lose them. Because I correct sentences, and I should have thought of that before, but then they come at night while I'm sleeping.
Oh, that's terribly posh. I think it's very British upper class style. I think John Maynard...
It started with COVID, so sometimes I am in bed between 5 and 8 a.m. writing everything down and rewriting it before I lose it. Like a British lady. Although I don't have a butler that comes and serves me tea.
You need John Maynard Keynes, the famous economist. I think he did all his writing in bed up until about midday.
Who?
John Maynard Keynes.
Oh, yes.
And he didn't get out of bed until midday.
He's a famous historian.
And he'd sit in bed and write.
Well, I love it because the blanket is, it's warming. And I even bought, during COVID, I bought from the Swedish design shop. They have these portable desks. It's like a cushion underneath and on top a hard top. And you can put the laptop right on top and just plunk away.
Oh, Anne-Marie, I had no idea what goes on in your bed. Now I've got an entirely different view now of what you're really up to.
It's great fun. Try it.
But I mean, here you sit at a desk, presumably. You don't sort of roll around in bed like others.
But sometimes I have some, like Annemarie, some ideas, some entire paragraphs and phrases, and I have to just commit it into writing.
Yes.
Sometimes with paper, sometimes with my phone nowadays. With my phone.
Yeah.
But normally at my desk, surrounded by piles of books. I think it's the proper way.
Books are the problem, isn't it? Because you build up a library and they're such a liability, particularly if you want to move house or something like that. And
I never did. So.
No, well, that's fortunate.
Heavy.
Because they're heavy, the sheer weight of them, and running out of space.
Do you ever have this problem that you have the book, but you can't find the bloody book?
Yes.
And you're looking like mad, and you you bought it.
I know. It's like they say, like housewives spend, I don't know, or husbands, whatever, can spend, before dishwashers would spend 17 days a year at the sink washing dishes. And I feel like I spend probably 17 days a year standing in front of my bookcase trying to find a book where I'll put it back in the wrong spot. But I've got almost like a photographic memory, and I can remember exactly a picture that I'm looking for and more or less the book. But what I can't remember is where I put the book. So, but once I find it, I know almost where to go to which page, and there's the object. And so I'm quite blessed that I have that capacity.
Sometimes I've even ordered the same book
twice.
Oh,
yeah, me too.
Because I can't find the book, and then I find the book, and I realize I've ordered it twice.
Oh, I forget that I've got the book, and I just order it, and I think, oh, that looks good.
Yeah.
And but then I can keep one in the office and one at home. So that's quite good. I mean, sometimes I've written so much on different topics in the past that sometimes I'll come across stuff on the internet and I'll think, oh, hell, this is really good. This person really knows, this is what I would have, and I'm reading it thinking, yes. And then I get to the end and it actually has my name on it. And I think, oh my God. But I've had that quite a few times.
But then you can plagiarize yourself.
Well, that's right. And you but it is a bit funny. Like, it is nice to know that over time one's been consistent, that you can read something you wrote 15 years ago and think, yeah, this is spot on. Yeah. So
this is what I meant at the beginning of our conversation of trying to bring out the best quality research that you can at that given moment. And I found that my first book, that I was heavily criticized by an art historian when he wrote the review about it. I found that 25 years later, that book can still stand on its own.
Yes.
And the theories that I launched in that book, I found that they were good theories. I didn't have a document for each idea, but it's a solid book. So I'm very proud of that.
I love the process of writing too, because you go through draft after draft after draft after draft, and I often feel like a bit like Michelangelo, whereby you start with a block of stone, and you walk into the studio and think, oh God, here we go, and you just start tapping away, tapping away, tapping away, and then day after day chiseling away, and then eventually you end up with something so stunningly good, and you still think, God, could I really have done that?
Yes.
But and you do, and you have done it because of this thing that people don't realise. This is what we do. We do the research, we write, but you don't just slap it all down and walk off. You then have to start polishing, chiseling, editing,
well,
and that takes such a long time.
The research as well. And Irvin Panofsky, the famous art historian, once said that to be a good art historian, you have to be like a steak in marinade. You have to marinate the steak a long time.
Right.
And what he meant, the metaphors, what he meant is it takes time. The research is one thing, but to sink in and to correlate it to what you want to talk about.
Yes.
And if you agree with the research or you don't agree with the research, and it's very complex.
It takes time. Yes.
It takes time, and people don't realize that, right, Hugo? This is an issue that we've spoken a lot about. When people plagiarize,
yes, they think it was easy to do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, they don't realise the extent of their theft.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And how outrageous it actually is.
Very true. Very true.
And in any book or essay or article, both of you know this. You put your heart and soul into what you're doing, and it's like it's your child.
Yeah.
So when you see your work being plundered by other people without even mentioning your name.
Oh God, yes, I saw a dealer the other day, a very well-known London dealer who, on his online catalogue, had basically block copied off my website. I couldn't believe it. And
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
I was shocked that this person did that, or at least his staff. But you get
they should be confronted.
Yeah, I know.
You should say something.
There's no other way.
Yeah.
If you, then they're embarrassed.
Yes. Well, I just, if I honestly, if I went after everyone that I saw, all the auction houses, everyone, I'd spend half my life doing it. It's just so much.
But you have to defend your work.
It's a justice. It's a question of justice.
Yeah. I should get a fee. I've been quite rich, I think. One other thing I'd like to touch on is that just because something's been published in the past doesn't make it right. And I think a lot of people who are researching, as long as they can footnote something and sort of here's the source and whatever, they don't challenge it, and they're not confident enough to challenge what people have written in the past. And so you have books that are published maybe like in 1910, and then people then refer to that over and over and over and over to the point where the stuff in it, the knowledge in it, so-called knowledge, becomes fact, just
because it has been cited so much.
Because it's been cited so much. And it takes a special level of confidence to actually challenge it and sort of think, actually, is this really right?
Exactly.
And I did that in my most recent book. I went through and I thought, is this plausible? Do I really believe this? And so often I thought, actually, I don't. And so I think that's an interesting part of the research process, is when you come across stuff that's, this so-called conventional wisdom, and you just have
challenge
to put it. Yeah, you need to challenge it.
And debunk it as well.
Yeah, and that's not done enough.
Yes. Yeah, because I think people are not confident enough in their own abilities and their own research. That's why there are so many mistakes, and even in museum labeling, everything. All of these mistakes keep on being handed down.
Yes,
and it's passed on. And I think it's actually because people are less knowledgeable and they don't go deep enough.
It is extraordinary, just because something's published, that people assume that it's right.
Yes, exactly.
And it's quite a departure. You need to challenge every single thing, because it's a form of laziness. Just sort of because you can find it written in a book in the past and you can footnote it and cite it and whatever, that doesn't get you off the hook for basically passing on a fib, or passing on someone else's bad research as a fact. But there's far too much of that, and I see it all the time. When I just don't, and in fact, I can see when I've made a mistake, And then I think, oh hell, that's embarrassing. I've mislabeled this or whatever. And then I see on the internet that people over and over and over are repeating my mistakes, and that's a great sign that they're basically stealing from me because they're repeating mistakes that only I've made. And I did this recently, a while ago. One particular type of bowl made in Burma, I called it a tabik, and someone pointed out, no, that's not a tabik. It's modelled after a tabik, but it's not a tabik. But now I swear, every time one of these bowls appear at auction, it's called a tabik, and I think they're being smart. But in fact, all they're doing is reproducing and copying my error. So there's a slight amount of gratification sometimes when I see that.
But you've corrected this error in your
Oh, totally.
life,
I have in my area, yes. But of course, it's now taken on a life of its own on the internet. But yeah, no, it's I see it all the time.
I think for auction houses, they have younger people on board and writing up these catalog entries, and it's certainly easier nowadays just to go online.
Yes.
And copy it.
Yes.
And that's what it is, because they don't have the time, or they're not interested in doing the
or
research.
the knowledge.
Or the knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And you see that also, it's not just the little auction houses, it's the big ones. It is Bonhams, Sotheby's and Christie's, let's be honest. They make mistakes all the time, but they get away with it because they spend so much money on branding. So yeah. Anyway, so what's do you see yourselves doing this forever? Do you think, Hugo? Are you going to? You're still quite young.
I hope so. If I have the money to do it, and the resources, yes, sure. I have lots of interesting things and always incredible objects to do research on. So it's never ending.
It is never ending, isn't it? It's and you never stop learning.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Working on different subjects, on different areas, and of course challenging. I think it's the most important thing is to challenge what other people said, and looking at the objects and material culture, in my case, in a different way, and trying to really understand what we are looking at.
Because when you challenge, you're extending knowledge and you're pushing out the frontiers, and I think that's really important. That's something that we can do quite a lot. And going back to the original premise of all of this, that we're independent scholars and researchers, and we have more freedom perhaps to challenge, because we don't have to put up with conventional wisdoms and be worried about upsetting one's departmental colleagues and all of that.
Yes.
But sometimes you get criticized.
Oh God,
Even though you know you're right.
Yes.
There are people out there who want to make you wrong.
Oh, yes. And they love
put you
that.
in a bad context.
Totally, yeah.
But you have to believe in yourself. And I think this knowledge that we have just comes with time.
Indeed. That's really true,
So layers and layers and learning and data. And
yes, and then you're...
looking.
In my case, I'm not as deep into objects as Hugo's in-depth views, because I work out of the archive, and for me the documents cannot lie. They tell you the truth in terms of patronage, of collecting, who's commissioning what, where things were bought in Asia or Brazil or Africa, and how these things came to Europe, and those are the trails I like to find.
No, you're a great one for sitting around in sort of old libraries and
blowing off the dust of
exactly,
books and documents.
Archival sort of things, and no, it's marvelous. Your work is marvelous.
It's so fascinating to work in the archives, and it's really interesting how sometimes when you're working on something, the documents just come flying at you.
Yes,
they just fly at you, and you're like, oh my God. Holy shit, bingo, eureka, I've been looking for this, and all of a sudden, I usually always speak to all my ghosts, all my royal ghosts, when I enter the archive and say, today I want to find this.
Oh, that's interesting as a research method.
Like a Ouija board, but...
Ouija board, exactly.
I haven't thought of that.
With the spirits, all my royal spirits.
I'll just settle for a cup of tea and hope for the best. This is really fun. We should have chats like this more often. I think it's maybe we can do an annual revisit on this theme.
Always an excuse to come to London, right?
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Well, here you go, Annemarie. Thanks so much. This is really fun. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Michael, for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You have been listening to the World Art Now podcast in association with Michael Backman Limited. To hear more, visit worldartnow.com.